Hi everyone and welcome to week 7. I'm going to keep this week a little bit lighter so that you can have more time to work on your midterm. So you're already watching the video. My next little note is prepare any questions for a Zoom call next week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a Zoom for 1 to 2 o'clock on Monday of week 8. And you can ask any minor, major questions, if something's not working right in Maya, if you don't know how to navigate a certain way, anything like that. I will record the Zoom and post it, so if you're unable to make it but you have a question, you can feel free to reach out and email me and I will answer it during that Zoom call. This is not a time for me to look at any of your projects in particular. You can always email me that type of thing, but this is for any sort of tips, tricks, questions like that. Then you'll be working on your midterm part 2. So you've done your low poly model based upon your front and side view drawings and your written paragraph description of what it's going to be like. Now you get to add details to this. So you can do this many different ways, but you're going to use your low poly version to turn it into a high poly version, okay? So what I would recommend you do is open your low poly file, save it as a new name, Command D to duplicate your object. You can use layers to hide your low poly and then start adding on to it to create your high poly. This way, in one file, you'll be able to see your low poly and high poly versions. Okay, I can go over that in a little bit further. But you need to add important details, texture details, usage details. If in your paragraph you said this was an old object, then where are the dents and the dings to show that it's old? Or, if there's wood grain or something like that. So make sure that you're adding those edge loops to get those details, but you're not just adding to go crazy. You can think about smoothing, but again, for a reason. This week you can also have a chance to clean up your low poly object. You're going to want to make sure your low poly object is as good as you can get it before you duplicate it and turn it into the high poly. Then I have a critique here. This isn't a graded critique, but you can post your project throughout the week and give feedback. This will help to make your midterm the best that it can be when you submit on Sunday. Again, help each other out, post your project, explain what you're trying to do, see if people get it, you can ask questions, all of that. And that's the end. Again, trying to keep it simple so that we're focusing on your midterm. A few things that I did want to make sure you were aware of. So I posted in the announcements, but a lot of times if you just, with Maya 2020 for some reason, if you just double click on a Maya file, and your Maya is closed, let me give it a second. Nothing opens, right? I'm getting the spinning wheel of death, but I don't have anything here. You need to you either have to have this open, because now if I double click on the hammer, don't save, continue, okay, now it opens, or if you go to File, Open Scene, then it will open, okay? So make sure, there's nothing wrong with your files, it's just a glitch with Maya 2020. Don't forget that if you want something to be centered in your viewport, you can hit F, and that focuses it in. You can also right mouse click and go into any specific part and hit F, and it will zoom in onto it. Since we are getting into a little bit more detail, I'm going to grab a sphere to show you what I'm talking about. So if you double click on your selection tool, which is this top one that looks like a mouse, it's also hotkey Q, but if we double click, you'll see this drop down called soft selection. If I turn, well, let me start with it off. I'm going to grab a vertice. If I use my move tool, you guys know what happens, right? Just that one point moves up in space. Well, we have in our move tool setting, or in our tool settings here for the selection tool, what's called soft select. So you can check this on. Now there's a fall off radius. So take a look right now. I'll click on this top vertice. I'm going to minimize my fall off so you can see it more. If I go to move that one point, now it's moving everything around it, and it allows us to get a more organic push and pull. So what this does, let me go back so you can see in our soft select, this fall off radius is going to change all of it. So let me put it up. Now you can see I'm going to affect more of the shape. What it's doing is it's taking whatever vertex you have selected, and then again, depending upon your fall off radius, but it's selecting the next ring of vertices, the next ring of vertices a little less, the next ring a little less, a little less, a little less, until we don't have any movement. So it's not really doing an extrude, or it's a move with fall off. So you can get an organic look. I mean, pretty easy to make, kind of like an apple. You can do this with move, rotate, and scale. You're just going to want to make sure to uncheck it when you're going back to modeling. All right. I'm going to just delete this. So I have my hammer here. I noticed in grading, one thing that we need to pay attention to when we're modeling is that you're selecting the vertices behind it. So let me do this real quick, and I'll change this to my side view, and this one's fine being perspective. All right, so when I'm modeling, this one's fine. All right, so when I'm modeling, and I'm going to hide my image planes so you don't have to look at them, what you want to do is click and drag around your vertices. Notice this clicked the vertice that's right behind it as well, and you want to move things this way. This is just my other shape behind it. I can delete it for the time being. All right, so you're going to want to click and drag. Again, see, I actually have two vertices, but I'm moving both of them. I think a lot of you are clicking and letting go, and then yeah, I can shape this up to look great in my side view, but then if we look in my perspective, this is not what I wanted. Okay, so just make sure you're clicking and dragging if you want it to be symmetrical and have the whole shape change. All right, so we talked about the midterm. Let's say, I'll delete this. This is my low poly hammer. So I'll go to File, Save Scene As, and now I'll call this hammer high poly. Continue. I know I have this done as much as I want to. So then I'm going to hit Command D. So now I have cube 1, cube 2. They're both in the exact same spot. I'll call this hammer low, and I'll call this one hammer high. With Maya, try not to use spaces or special characters. It just can kind of mess with the file. So I'm going to click on my hammer low, and I'm going to move it out of the way. I can also hit Control H to hide it. You can see in my outliner it's grayed out. You would click on it and hit Shift H to bring it back. So Control H, hide, Shift H brings it back. So now I would look at this and start making it my high poly. Well, I know for first of all, I want to have two edges down, or two little, I don't know what part of the hammer you would call that, but to get the nail out. I want to give this part more detail to make this more of the cube in the front. I want this hammer base to round out a bit and to have wood detail. Okay, so it's really just going to be about inserting edge loops and starting to shape how you want it to look. So edit mesh, mesh tools, insert edge loop. Remember, this puts a loop perpendicularly to any of the edges that you click on. So we got something like that. Then I can go in and decide, I'm going to go into edge mode. Maybe I want to pull this one out a little bit. Maybe I want to grab both sides to make sure. Then I can actually scale to bring them out. But I'm starting to get a more rounded shape. I can also grab the 4 corners that I originally started with. I'm going to look kind of more from a top view. And I can scale them inward. Okay. Maybe I want this edge loop to be scaled in, but I need to add some more to keep it round. So edit mesh. I don't know what my problem is. I always think insert edge loop is under edit mesh. Do what you know is true. So I can start bringing in extra edge loops, scaling them inward. Okay, so we're adding those details. Now, if I wanted this to look like wood grain, I'm going to need to add a lot of different edge loops and mold a lot. Maybe I want to do some soft slick. Maybe I want to make it look like kind of a rubber handle that has like finger marks where you should put your hand. Really try to get as much detail in here as you can. I don't want this to look, oops. There should be a very visible difference, which you can already kind of see. Let me just zoom this in for you. Okay, so high poly to low poly models. Next week, I'm going to go over how to render a still, which is taking what we've created in 3D, picking the camera angle, picking the resolution, and then rendering out an image so that we can show off your final pieces in a discussion a little bit more successfully. So something to look forward to. Good luck with your midterms, and let me know if you have any questions.